So let's begin with 1794. The Gentleman's Magazine, that was the magazine started in UK. A nose operation was performed on the streets of Pune, Maharashtra, streets of Pune, by a potter. This potter on the streets of Pune, he took a flap from here. Very important thing to remember is he did not cut it completely, so it is still connected. It's a living tissue, and he turned it around and put it on the top of a nose. The document found in Russia-China border, it is in Sanskrit, and it referred to many sages: Atreya, Harita, Parashara, Bhela, Garga, Sambhavya, Sushruta, Vasishtha, Karala, and so on. And right now we know that we have some of those medicinal samhitas like Atreya, Harita, Bhela. Those samhitas exist in our time. So what this Hunley did 1907 is, this is how he dated them. And I won't go into the details. So 500 CE is when he said the Sushruta Samhita. He used Shatapat Brahman, the descriptions of the bone structures in Shatapat Brahman and the same bone structures mentioned in Sushruta Samhita. And that's how he put it at 500 BCE. What does the Sushruta Samhita itself has to say? So the Sushruta Samhita internal reference themselves are referring to the time of 3000, 4000 BCE. So Sushruta was known to the Mahabharata times. Now Mahabharata times is what? 6th millennium BCE. So definitely Sushruta was there in 6th millennium BCE. So this is with again presented at Oxford University, the Oxford conference, by Sanket Kulkarni and myself. Okay. So what I'm doing is trying to team up with other researchers, getting them into the grooves. Sometimes they worry about going to these big sounding places. You know, as soon as you hear Harvard and MIT and Cambridge and Oxford, oh, what is going to happen? You know, there's big shots and something. Well, if you have the truth, the big shots don't matter. You know, so Sanket Kulkarni, I was looking for a photo. I text him and said, please send the photo so that, you know, at least people know how he looks, but you can go to the Facebook and look at the picture. The reason I wanted to show his picture or even talk about him, or I'm talking about him, is because how many of you are aware of the person named Dharampal and the 5 volumes? Okay, he is our modern Dharampal. He lives in London. Goes every day close to 2 hours one way to get to his destination. Okay, but on Saturday he eats early breakfast in the morning, because in the British library you cannot eat, and unless you go early you will not get a spot to sit, and you cannot take a food inside, and if you come out your spot is gone. So he eats in the morning, takes a 1 hour train to go to British Library. Every Saturday essentially he spends the time there, finding out some amazing stuff. Okay, so Sushruta Samhita. Now there are papers out there away from Sushruta Samhita. Some of you might be knowing about this 2006 paper, which refers to dental surgery in Sindhu Saraswati civilization, and the timing that is given is 5000 to 7000 BC. Okay guys, you have to get very comfortable with these dates now. This is not even a paper from some Indian guy, because we don't trust Indians, right? Amazing. Yeah, somebody Western guy writes it and we say, yeah, that must be true. Okay, 5000 to 7000 BC dental surgery. Rigveda, many of you might know that Queen Vishpala, she had a surgery on her leg. Okay, and then of course some other person suggested maybe it's not the queen, maybe it's a horse. Okay, but doesn't matter. I mean, you know, horse surgery, human surgery is relatively successful. Horse surgery is still challenge. So if it's a horse and they did it thousands of years ago, you know, so be it. So Sushruta, now this is a very interesting validation of Sushruta Samhita. So let's begin with 1794. The Gentleman's Magazine, that was the magazine started in UK. That was a new thing. A magazine was a somewhat new thing there, you know, and an article appeared. And this guy's name was a Kawasji. And what the article said is that a nose surgery, now we know the word for it, rhinoplasty, like a plastic surgery, but the name wasn't there. A nose operation was performed on the streets of Pune, Maharashtra, streets of Pune, by a potter. Okay, by a potter. And what that person did is the nose was gone. This was a Tipu war between the Tipu and someone, and Tipu used to reward folks for cutting the nose and a certain arm. Bring the left arm and a nose and he will reward them, and the idea is to terrorize the other side. So that's how he was a bullock cart driver during that war, supply chain, and his nose was cut. And this operation was performed where it's a wax mold that was placed there, and I won't go through the details, but there was a certain flap that was done. What is interesting is this potter on the streets of Pune, he took a flap from here. Very important thing to remember is he did not cut it completely, so it is still connected. It's a living tissue, and he turned it around and put it on the top of a nose, then put all the balms and all the medicinal oils and herbs and all that, and in a few weeks, no infection, nothing, and now it's not exactly perfect nose, but he has a nose now. Okay, very functional nose in terms of the looks and appearance. That made a big deal of excitement in Europe. The reason is they were performing these operations. This problem of nose was, parts being removed was there everywhere, but they were not successful. Okay, so this made it like a big news there, and suddenly everyone started taking interest. In fact, look at the timing, 1794, and the Royal Institute or Association of Surgery in UK was founded in 1800. Now, I don't have evidence to prove that, that it is because of this, but don't think it's a coincidence. Okay, so then so many people started taking interest into this surgery, particular how to do it, and Carpio, he very methodically looked at this, and it was known as the Indian flap. Okay, the word was used was the Indian flap. He himself performed successful operations, and then a German medical man, he took this, translated into German language, and he coined that term rhinoplastic, the rhinoplasty that we see. Again, they were all accepting this. They're using the word Indian flap, like taking it down, and so on. They started, producing the drawings, exactly how to do it, and so on and so forth. They started writing books. Now, I don't want to go into Sanskrit and take time, but think of the word, chirurgery, like cut. That's how the words are coming. Which afterwards became surgery. And so many papers are written, many books are written. So I'm talking 1794, 1806, 1816, 1818, 1845, and so on. Around 1890, something interesting happens. This Sir Hamilton Bower, he is deputed in India. If you know the Great War between the Russia and the Western powers, and he is sent to Russia-China border on a secret mission. I won't go into that, like 20 minutes will not do it, possibly 2 hours will not do it. And he finds in a small bazaar there a small manuscript. He doesn't know what it is. He gives some money and purchases it out of curiosity. And he cannot figure it out, so he sends it to Calcutta, the Asiatic Society, to see if they can figure it out. And a very amazing, brilliant person, Hundley, Rudolph Hundley, so he looked at it. Now, this was very interesting how he even deciphered it. For example, imagine something is, say, in German language, but written in a Telugu script. And then that script is sent to, say, Russia. Who doesn't necessarily know German or what it is in a Telugu script. Now, how much you have to decipher? But he actually did it. The Hundley did it. And what he figured out is that it was written in a Brahmi, Gupta Brahmi script. The actual language is Sanskrit, but the script is a Gupta Brahmi. That's what I'm saying, Telugu script and something like this. And what is the big deal about it is that it was the whole document is this known as a Bower manuscript. It is talking about the Indian medicinal system and the multiple people who were there, and that document mentioned, this was in Sanskrit, I want you to understand that, the document found in Russia-China border, it is in Sanskrit, and it referred to many sages, Atreya, Harita, Parashara, Bhela, Garga, Sambhavya, Sushruta, Vasishtha, Karala, and so on. And right now we know that we have some of those medicinal samhitas like Atreya, Harita, Bhela, those samhitas exist in our time. So that was suddenly a big deal because remember, they were not accepting. Some of the folks in Europe, although it's an Indian flap, they're saying Indians can't do this. Okay. So the Sushruta name was a big deal, and suddenly there was a huge interest in knowing more about the medicinal science of India. So there, it was already there. That's why the paper was written. But now, so many people came, and what Hundley did, from 1890 by 94, and he kept on doing multiple translations. By 1907, he produced a full English translation of Sushruta Samhita that was available to him. The book is there in archive.org, and it's a free, you can download and see. Now I want to bring it back together. So someone in 1794 performed the surgery, and if you go to Sushruta Samhita, what is given here versus the report in Gentleman's Magazine is exactly the same. Like the way it was performed by the potter is how it is described here, except one change. What this Sushruta Samhita is saying is, instead of taking a flap from here, Sushruta Samhita here refers to taking a flap from the cheek, create a shape and turn it here. Now, do you see the improvisation that is being done? Because if you take it from here, even if you keep it, it's kind of, against the gravity, whereas here it's like going in the right direction, something like this. So improvisation was allowed. So somebody, didn't say, oh, because it is written in Sushruta Samhita that way, I shouldn't change it. No. They said, well, I can change it. That's what is actually done. Quickly, don't have to read this. Now remember, 1794 to 1895, 100 years after this was established, Indian flap and so on. Look what the British Medical Journal, how much bias they have and what they have to write. So when the Bower manuscript was translated and the Sushruta Samhita was coming out, they said to criticize the subject matter of this work in detail would be labor wasted. Its interest is rather antiquarian than scientific, because Indians cannot have anything scientific. It is the prerogative of the West. And then it goes on to say, but a collection of, says some good things, and then says, but a collection of complex farragos prescribed according to a fanciful and erroneous pathology is practically useless. So with the one hand they are taking it, using it, in the other hand they are calling the bad names. Okay, British Medical Journal. The Carpio, on the other hand, again the British guy, what he did is he wanted to verify this. So he actually contacted the British officers in India and asked them, hey, is this report true? Can you validate it? And he got a lot of validation. Just if you can take a second and read it. He said the Sir Charles Mallet, he wrote, and he's saying this is a common operation in India from time immemorial. And another person, Mr. Lucas, an English surgeon, was in several instances successful in operation, which they admitted. Some of the folks did admit, which he copied from the Hindu practitioners. Let's not feel bad about using the word Hindu. Others are using it. Only we are the one who are embarrassed, at times. Sushruta Samhita has a lot more than the rhinoplasty that I have said. Just many instruments are described and so on. Many medicinal things. It's a translation exists. I will encourage all of you to have a look at it quickly. Now, if you go to Wikipedia or Google and type timing of Sushruta, 600 BCE. Very recently, some Columbia University, very recently, within a month's time, and said, oh, the Indian thing is old. It's as old as 600 BCE. And some of our, some Indic researchers got very excited. Columbia is finally accepting it. Nonsense. Columbia is not accepting it to eulogize it. Actually, they are trying to fool us by saying, okay, well, it's only 600 BC. Yeah? Okay, that's what it is. That's what you will find. Quickly, I want to walk you through where this 600 BC came from and why it is wrong and what is the right number. Okay, so this is that timeline that I showed you in the other chapter. I'm just taking it from the time of Mahabharata, 6 millennium BC, 55, 61 BC to our times. Okay, now Sushruta Samhita. Now we have to distinguish between Sushruta Samhita and a Sushruta, because it's a text. It will be updated like books on physics and whatnot. Okay. So what this Hurnley did, 1907, is this is how he dated them. And I won't go into the details right now unless we have a time for question answer. So 500 CE is when he said the Sushruta Samhita. How he did that? Because remember, the Bower manuscript was in a Gupta Brahmi script. And that time, the Gupta time was considered to be 500 CE. When I say that time, the West still thinks it's 500 CE. Now we have evidence which puts it to 335 BCE by other evidence. Okay, and he put this the Sushruta himself, as a person, around 500 BCE. If I have time, I'll go through it. Otherwise, I'll skip it. A absolutely ridiculous, illogical way of even achieving that number. Now I'm not being harsh on Hurnley. He did amazing work. He was a very sincere fellow. But you know what? The agama, the background knowledge he was using in the West was produced by extremely insincere fellows. Okay, so that was the challenge. Now, if with the available evidence that we have today, if we could ask Hernley to revise his dates, would he do it? Well, he would have to, based on the evidence. For example, because now we know that the time of Guptas is 335 BC, so it could go up to that far back. Okay, and the logic that he used, a wrong logic that put him at 500 BCE. If we use the exactly same logic, but the modern research that we know, I won't go into the details, it's the Shatapad Brahman. He used Shatapad Brahman, the descriptions of the bone structures in Shatapad Brahman and the same bone structures mentioned in Sushruta Samhita. And that's how he put it at 500 BCE, because in 1900s, in West anyways, Shatapad Brahman was thought to be from 500 BCE. Now we know that it is definitely existed in 3000 BC, so it might go to 3000 BC. Okay, and two more. What does the Sushruta Samhita itself has to say? You know, remember that precession of equinoxes or precession of the Earth's axis? What it does, it shifts the Indian lunar month, okay, every 2000 years. It shifts with respect to the season by 1 month every 2000 years. So right now, suppose Ashad, everyone understands the Indian months. Ashad is sort of the first month of the rainy season, or Jeshta is the first month of a rainy season. Well, it's going to shift. In fact, look what it is saying. It is referring to, now the font kind of got modified there. So, but it's saying let's say, Kartika Margashirsha as the month of Sharad. Right now, they are the month of Hemanta. Okay, so if you do this calculation, it's very easy to do. It will take you to approximately 3000, 4000 BC. So the Sushruta Samhita internal reference themselves are referring to the time of 3000, 4000 BC. Everyone with me? Okay, and the quickly last one. So let's look at what the Sushruta Samhita says. You know, it says Sushruta was taught by Divodas, one person named Divodas in Kashi. Okay, and there is enough evidence to say possibly Sushruta was his son and also a disciple. But Divodas trained many others, be it as it may. If we go to Garuda Puran, again you don't find the name Sushruta, but it is referring to that same lineage. The context is that. But remember those names. Sushruta there is called Divodasatmaja, Atmaja, very close, affectionate to him. And the other members of the genealogy mentioned there are Vishwamitra, Devarata, Madhuchanda. Okay, now there are many Vishwamitras, remember that. Now we go to Mahabharata. Okay, Anushasan Parva, you see a much longer genealogy. It has Sushruta, and again those Vishwamitra, the genealogy is given Vishwamitra, Devarata, Madhuchanda. So Sushruta was known to the Mahabharata times. Now Mahabharata times is what? 6th millennium BC. So definitely Sushruta was there in 6th millennium BC. Whether he was a contemporary of Mahabharata or if he was even ancient to Mahabharata, we don't have evidence to.
Vedic Rishi also who has contributed to Rigved by name Madhuchanda. But I'll check on that.
No, but that's fine. So actually the answer is yes. No, Madhuchanda is very well known in us. Now whether we don't know even that Madhuchanda or not. Madhuchanda could be.
There is a name of a Vedic Rishi also.
Yes. But let's not digress. The point I want to mention is that Devodasa Sushruta connection, that same Devodasatmaja and the other members, and they are also there. It's a very consistent list that we are looking at. It takes us to definitely 6 millennium BC, or it could be before. Okay. So that's like putting together, like, so, you know, the evidence like going back to 6 millennium BC. Thank you.